I never meant to notice her that way. But sometimes, a glance lasts a beat too long, and something inside you decides it won't forget. She was standing by the studio window that evening, where the late light softened everything it touched. It brushed her hair in gold and dusted her collarbone, and I caught myself thinking how unfair it was that some people could hold stillness like that, like time waited for them. She was helping with the sound check, tapping her pen against her notepad, her brows slightly furrowed. Every movement was deliberate, but her silence said more than words ever could. When she finally turned, her eyes found me, calm, unhurried, knowing. I forgot whatever I was supposed to say. "Could you adjust the mic?" she asked, voice low, smooth, the kind that carried warmth even when it meant to stay distant. "Yeah," I said too quickly. My voice cracked halfway through. Her lips curved just enough to make it worse. I reached over her shoulder to fix the mic. The scent of her, faint jasmine and coffee, filled the space between us. My fingers brushed the cable near her wrist. She didn't move away. Instead, she tilted her head slightly, pretending to focus on something else, but her breath shifted, shallow, deliberate. That half-inch of closeness hummed louder than the static in the speakers. We stood there, pretending to work. The quiet stretched, not awkward, just full. The kind of silence that watches you. "You're good at this," she said after a moment. "At what?" I asked, turning to meet her eyes. "Listening," she replied, but she didn't look at me when she said it. She glanced out the window again, like she regretted saying it at all. There was a small tremor in her tone, the kind people carry when they've been lonely too long and aren't sure how much they're allowed to want anymore. I smiled, but she didn't see. Or maybe she chose not to. The air had that stillness before a storm, a kind of waiting. A soft hum from the monitors, the faint smell of rain through the open window. She picked up her bag and hesitated, just a second, before slinging it over her shoulder. "You're staying late again?" she asked. "Just finishing the mix," I said. "You? I don't sleep much." She said it like an apology, though she didn't owe me one. She brushed past me on her way out. Her arm grazed mine, barely a touch, but enough to leave a pulse behind. My breath caught. She paused at the door. "I'll lock up if you're last," she said. "I'll make sure you don't have to," I replied. She gave a small smile, one of those quiet, dangerous ones that could mean 100 things or nothing at all. Her eyes lingered on mine for a second too long, as if she wanted to add something, then thought better of it. The hallway light flickered when she stepped out. I listened to her footsteps fade, slow, deliberate, softer than the rain beginning outside. I turned back to the empty room. Her coffee cup sat beside the mixing console, lipstick faint on the rim. I traced the edge with my thumb, feeling foolish, and yet not enough to stop. Behind me, the door creaked open again. I turned, heart kicking. She was there, just at the threshold, eyes unreadable. "You forgot your umbrella," I said. "I know," she murmured. And she didn't move to take it. The rain hadn't stopped since that night. It came down soft in the mornings, heavier by noon, the kind that slowed the city but gave the studio its rhythm. She was already there when I arrived, her hair damp, sleeves rolled just above her elbows as she arranged sheet music on the desk. The air smelled of rain and her perfume, faint but familiar now. She didn't look up when she spoke. "You're early," she said. "So are you. I don't like traffic." She said it with a small shrug, but her eyes flicked toward me, almost shyly, before settling on the papers again. We'd grown used to this, the quiet partnership of people pretending to be just colleagues. She taught me small things, how to balance a vocal track, how to listen for tone beneath the surface. I'd catch her watching me sometimes, mid-instruction, her voice softening in a way that didn't match her words. I didn't ask questions, though 1,000 wanted out. There were days she spoke about her past in fragments, like a song missing verses. "I used to travel a lot," she said once, wiping a smudge from the piano keys. "Then life slowed down." Her ring finger was bare, but the mark where it had been wasn't. "You still play?" I asked. "Not anymore," Music's easier when it doesn't ask anything of you. The way she said it stayed with me. That quiet fatigue. The kind that comes after years of being needed, then suddenly not. She walked over to where I was editing a track. I felt her before I saw her, that nearness, like static before lightning. She leaned closer, one hand resting lightly on my shoulder as she reached for the mouse. "Here," she murmured, her breath brushing the back of my neck. "You're cutting it too early." I could barely hear her over my own heartbeat. She froze, maybe realizing how close she was, but she didn't pull away right away. Her fingers tensed against my shoulder, then relaxed, tracing the fabric for a heartbeat before letting go. "Sorry," she said softly. "It's fine," I lied. She turned toward the window, arms crossed, trying to hide the tremor in her breath. "People talk, you know." "I don't care," I said. "You should." Her tone sharpened, then cracked, the edge softening into something else. "They won't understand." "Then don't give them anything to talk about." For a long moment, we just stood there, her reflection in the glass, mine beside it. The rain kept sliding down, washing the outside world into shapes and colors that didn't hold. When she finally faced me, her expression was unreadable. Then she reached out, almost unconsciously, and brushed a strand of wet hair from my forehead. Her hand lingered. Too long to be casual. Too gentle to be anything but real. Neither of us moved. The hum of the equipment filled the silence between us, steady, low, alive. She drew her hand back, but the air stayed charged, warm where she touched me. "Fix the mix," she whispered, "before I change my mind." Then she walked away, not fast, not slow, leaving the scent of rain and something unspoken hanging in the room. And for the first time, I wasn't sure which of us she was warning. The rain hadn't stopped since that night. It came down soft in the mornings, heavier by noon, the kind that slowed the city but gave the studio its rhythm. She was already there when I arrived, her hair damp, sleeves rolled just above her elbows as she arranged sheet music on the desk. The air smelled of rain and her perfume, faint but familiar now. She didn't look up when she spoke. "You're early," she said. "So are you." "I don't like traffic." She said it with a small shrug, but her eyes flicked toward me, almost shyly, before settling on the papers again. We'd grown used to this, the quiet partnership of people pretending to be just colleagues. She taught me small things, how to balance a vocal track, how to listen for tone beneath the surface. I'd catch her watching me sometimes, mid-instruction, her voice softening in a way that didn't match her words. I didn't ask questions, though 1,000 wanted out. There were days she spoke about her past in fragments, like a song missing verses. "I used to travel a lot," she said once, wiping a smudge from the piano keys. "Then life slowed down." Her ring finger was bare, but the mark where it had been wasn't. "You still play?" I asked. "Not anymore." Music's easier when it doesn't ask anything of you. The way she said it stayed with me. That quiet fatigue. The kind that comes after years of being needed, then suddenly not. She walked over to where I was editing a track. I felt her before I saw her, that nearness, like static before lightning. She leaned closer, one hand resting lightly on my shoulder as she reached for the mouse. "Here," she murmured, her breath brushing the back of my neck. "You're cutting it too early." I could barely hear her over my own heartbeat. She froze, maybe realizing how close she was, but she didn't pull away right away. Her fingers tensed against my shoulder, then relaxed, tracing the fabric for a heartbeat before letting go. "Sorry," she said softly. "It's fine." I lied. She turned toward the window, arms crossed, trying to hide the tremor in her breath. "People talk, you know." "I don't care," I said. "You should." Her tone sharpened, then cracked, the edge softening into something else. "They won't understand." "Then don't give them anything to talk about." For a long moment, we just stood there, her reflection in the glass, mine beside it. The rain kept sliding down, washing the outside world into shapes and colors that didn't hold. When she finally faced me, her expression was unreadable. Then she reached out, almost unconsciously, and brushed a strand of wet hair from my forehead. Her hand lingered. Too long to be casual. Too gentle to be anything but real. Neither of us moved. The hum of the equipment filled the silence between us, steady, low, alive. She drew her hand back, but the air stayed charged, warm where she touched me. "Fix the mix," she whispered, "before I change my mind." Then she walked away, not fast, not slow, leaving the scent of rain and something unspoken hanging in the room. And for the first time, I wasn't sure which of us she was warning the storm had passed, but its scent still clung to everything: wet pavement, metal, the faint chill that seeps into your sleeves when the air forgets it's supposed to be warm. She was standing by the mixing console again, sleeves pushed up, hair loose this time. A faint hum from the monitors filled the silence between us. We'd been working late for weeks, but tonight felt different, quieter, charged, like the air just before something falls apart. She handed me a pair of headphones. "Tell me if it's off." Her fingers brushed mine as I took them. A small, accidental touch, but it hit too deep to ignore. I slipped the headphones on. Her voice filled my ears, not speaking, but singing. I hadn't heard her sing before. It was raw, unpolished, honest. When the track ended, I just stared at her. "You never told me you. It was a long time ago," she said quickly. "Before I knew better." "Better than what?" She didn't answer. She turned to the computer, her jaw tightening. I watched the reflection of her hands tremble slightly against the desk. Then came a knock, sharp, sudden. She froze. "Anyone in there?" It was Amir, one of the interns. "I left my notes." She glanced at me, the kind of look that carried both warning and regret. "Give me a second," she whispered, straightening her hair, smoothing her blouse. When she opened the door, her tone was all professionalism. "Here," she said, handing him the folder without looking back. "Go home, Amir. It's late." He mumbled a thanks and left. The door clicked shut. The room felt smaller after that. Her hand still rested on the door handle when I said, "You're good at pretending." She turned slowly. "And you're bad at hiding things." "Maybe I don't want to." The silence that followed wasn't comfortable anymore. It was heavy. Electric. She took a step toward me. Just one. Then another. Until I could see the faint shimmer of her lip gloss, the pulse at her throat, the way her breath hitched before she spoke. "You shouldn't look at me like that," she said quietly. "Then stop standing so close." Her eyes met mine, steady, searching, tired of pretending. "You're just—" She stopped herself, voice catching. "You're too young to understand what this could ruin." I almost laughed. "I understand enough to know I'd regret not trying." She blinked, as if the words had struck somewhere she didn't expect. For a moment, her hand reached up, fingers tracing the air between us, trembling, before she caught herself. "Don't," she whispered. But she didn't move away. The distance between us collapsed, a breath, a heartbeat. My hand brushed her wrist, light, uncertain. She didn't pull back. Her eyes closed, just for a second, and that second felt infinite. Then her phone buzzed on the desk. The sound snapped everything. She stepped back, her breathing uneven, face flushed with something between anger and fear. "I have to go," she said, voice thin. I nodded, but she didn't move. For a long moment, we just looked at each other, all the words unsaid hanging in the space like smoke. And when she finally left, she didn't close the door all the way. Days passed where either of us said more than necessary. She arrived later now, left earlier, as if the space between us had become something that needed managing, like temperature or time. But avoidance doesn't dissolve what's already in the air. It only thickens it. That evening, the studio lights were dimmer than usual. One of the bulbs had burned out, and neither of us bothered to fix it. The room was steeped in that soft, amber half-darkness where truth feels harder to resist. I was finishing a rough mix when she came in, no greeting, just the sound of her heels pausing at the doorway. "You didn't answer my message," she said. "I didn't know what to say." That's not like you, she replied, voice steady but low, like she was holding something back. I looked up. You didn't give me much to respond to. Her lips tightened, a quiet flash of hurt crossing her face. Maybe I was trying to make things easier. For who? She hesitated, then exhaled sharply. For both of us. The way she said it, exhausted, raw, pulled something loose inside me. I stood, stepping closer before I could think better of it. You keep saying that, I said. But you're the only one running. Her eyes met mine. You think I don't feel this? She whispered. You think it's easy pretending that nothing's happening every time you look at me like. She stopped, shaking her head, but I caught the tremor in her voice. Like what? Her breath faltered. Like I'm still worth being looked at. The silence that followed wasn't empty, it vibrated. I could hear her heartbeat in the quiet, or maybe it was mine. Without thinking, I reached out, tucking a loose strand of hair behind her ear. My fingers brushed her skin, warm, soft, trembling beneath the surface. She didn't move. Her eyes closed, lashes quivering. Don't, she breathed, barely a sound. But she leaned into the touch, just slightly, just enough. I could smell her perfume again, faint jasmine and rain. My hand lingered against her jaw, her breath hitched. Tell me to stop, I said quietly. She opened her eyes then, and whatever she'd been holding back spilled there, fear, want, grief. I can't, she said. The confession hung between us like a spark waiting for oxygen. I stepped closer, until the space between our bodies was just the whisper of fabric and heat. Her hand found my chest, not to push me away, not really. It stayed there, trembling, feeling the rhythm beneath. This is wrong, she murmured. Then why does it feel like the only thing that's right? For a moment, neither of us breathed. Her lips parted, not to speak, just to take in air that wasn't enough. She tilted her head slightly, eyes flicking to my mouth, and that was all it took. The world shrank to the inches between us, to her hand clutching my shirt, to my pulse racing against her palm. And then, the door burst open. Light flooded in. Sorry, Amir's voice blurted. I didn't know anyone. Her hand flew back, her body stiffening instantly. I turned, heart still hammering. Amir froze, blinking between us, the silence roaring louder than any music. She found her voice first. Go, she said softly, not looking at me. Please. When the door closed again, she stayed facing away, shoulders trembling, caught between running and staying. And then, without turning, she said the line that undid me completely. I don't trust myself around you anymore. The next morning, the studio felt colder, not just from the air conditioning, but from what had been left unsaid. She didn't meet my eyes when she walked in, and I didn't know if I should look at her at all. She busied herself with the soundboard, her movements precise, careful, the kind of careful that only happens after something breaks. I spoke to Amir, she said finally. My stomach dropped. What did he? He didn't see anything. She cut in quickly, then paused. But he asked if we were close. The word hung between us. Close. It sounded innocent in his mouth, but here, in this room, it burned. What did you tell him? I asked. Her answer came too fast. That you're just helping me with the recordings. That's all. I laughed softly, not out of humor, but disbelief. Just helping, right? Her eyes flashed, then softened. I had to protect you. Or yourself? The question landed harder than I meant. Her hand froze over the faders, her breath catching in her throat. She turned toward me, eyes glinting with something raw. You think I wanted this? She said quietly. You think I don't wake up every morning telling myself to stop? Her voice trembled, but she didn't cry. She'd learned long ago not to. I can't afford another mistake, she whispered. Not after. She stopped herself, but it was too late. After what? She looked at me then, and I knew, whatever she'd buried all this time was clawing its way back up. My marriage, she said finally. I stayed for the wrong reasons. I left too late. And when I finally walked out, I promised myself I wouldn't need anyone again. The truth settled in like dust, quiet, heavy everywhere. I stepped closer, instinct more than choice. You don't need me, I said softly. But maybe you want me. There's a difference. Her breath hitched, a tiny, traitorous sound. Don't do that, she said. Do what? Make it sound simple. It could be. She shook her head, a faint, bitter smile tugging at her lips. You still think the world forgives people for wanting the wrong things? I didn't answer. I couldn't. She turned to leave, brushing past me, but as she did, her shoulder grazed my chest, and something in both of us stopped moving. Her hand lifted, maybe to push me away, maybe not. Instead, it found its way to my arm, gripping lightly, trembling. You don't know what this could cost me, she said. Then let me share it, I whispered. She closed her eyes. You don't understand. He's still around. My ex, he owns this place. The revelation hit like a pulse of static. Suddenly, everything made sense, the careful distance, the fear of being seen, the constant glances at the door. He doesn't know I still come here, she added. He'd make it ugly. The silence stretched. I could hear both our breaths, shallow, uneven. She looked up at me, eyes glassy in the dim light. You should walk away before I ruin you too. I stepped forward anyway. Her body stiffened, but she didn't move. Our hands brushed, then held, just long enough for both of us to realize what we'd done. I'm not walking away, I said. Her eyes flicked to my lips, once, quickly, before she turned away, whispering, almost to herself. Then this can't end well. It was nearly midnight when she called. Her voice was quiet, steady, too steady. Can you come to the studio? I almost said no. But the silence that followed was enough to make me grab my jacket and go. When I arrived, only the hallway light was on. The rest of the building slept, but I could hear music playing faintly behind the door, a rough mix we'd never finished. She was sitting by the console, the glow from the monitors painting her face in soft blue. No makeup. No mask. Just her. You came, she said, not turning. You asked? She smiled at that, tired, small, beautiful. For a moment neither of us spoke. The song kept looping, her old recording, her voice haunting the room. I'm shutting this down, she said finally. The sessions, the late nights. I can't keep doing this. Because of me. Because of what this is turning into. The honesty in her tone hurt more than any denial could have. She stood crossing her arms, her shoulders tense. You should hate me for this. I cross lines that shouldn't be crossed. I shook my head. You didn't cross them alone. That made her look up, sharply, almost pleadingly. Don't make this harder. It already is, I said. The room held its breath. I stepped closer, each footstep small, deliberate, until there was barely a hand's width between us. I could feel the warmth of her skin, the faint tremor in her breathing. Tell me this means nothing, I whispered. And I'll walk out right now. Her lips parted, but no words came. Only a quiet exhale that trembled like confession. Don't do this, she said. I've spent years learning how to stop wanting what I can't have. And did it work? Her eyes flicked up, and for the first time, she didn't look away. It did, she said softly. Until you. I reached out, slowly, carefully, my fingers brushing against her wrist. She didn't move. My hand slid upward, tracing the inside of her arm, the faint pulse beneath her skin. Her breath caught. This is wrong, she whispered again, but her body leaned forward, betraying her words. I know. My other hand found her face, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. Her skin was warm beneath my palm, her eyes glassy and uncertain. Say it, I murmured. She closed her eyes. I can't. Her voice cracked on the last word, half a plea, half surrender. We stood there, suspended in that breath between choice and consequence. The kind of silence that carries everything it can't say aloud. Then she stepped closer, until her forehead rested against my shoulder. Not a kiss. Not yet. Just the quiet, trembling weight of a choice made too late. I don't want to hurt you, she whispered. You already haven't, I said. You made me feel seen. That broke something in her. I felt it, the small exhale, the way her fingers clutched my shirt like it was the only thing keeping her upright. When she finally looked up, there was no distance left. Her hand rose to my jaw, trembling, deliberate. We didn't move. Didn't breathe. And then, in the space between almost and everything, the world went quiet. The night outside was still, washed clean by rain. The streets glistened under the streetlights, puddles catching bits of gold and blue from passing cars. Inside the studio, everything felt softer, the hum of the monitors, the faint warmth left in the air where we'd been standing too close for too long. She sat on the couch by the window, elbows resting on her knees, head bowed. I stood for a moment, unsure if I should speak. The silence between us had changed. It wasn't heavy anymore, just full. When I finally sat beside her, she didn't move away. Her hands were clasped together, fingers fidgeting the way they did when she was trying not to cry. I should have stopped this a long time ago, she said quietly. I told myself I could handle it. That you were just helping. And now? She exhaled, a long, trembling breath. Now I know I was just scared. I waited, watching the rain trace thin silver lines down the glass. Scared of what? Her voice was barely a whisper. Of feeling something real again. Of being seen for who I am now, not who I used to be. I reached for her hand, tentative at first. She didn't pull away. Her fingers were cold, small in mine, but the way she held back for a moment before finally interlocking them, that was everything. We sat there, hands joined, breaths sinking slowly, until the quiet began to feel safe again. I don't care what anyone thinks, I said softly. You don't need to be anyone else. Not with me. Her head tilted toward me, eyes shining but steady. You'll change your mind, she said, half smiling through it. Maybe. But not tonight. That made her laugh, just a small, broken sound that carried more truth than any promise could. She leaned in then, resting her forehead against mine, our hands still entwined between us. The warmth of her breath brushed my lips, and for the first time, the nearness didn't feel forbidden. It just felt right. Neither of us needed to say what it was anymore. The labels, the fear, the distance, all of it dissolved in that fragile, human closeness. Her voice came quiet against my cheek. You make me feel younger, she said. I shook my head. No, I whispered. You make me feel real. She smiled, the kind that starts small but finds its way into the eyes. Then she leaned in and kissed my forehead, slow and certain, her fingers tracing the back of my hand. It wasn't a grand ending, no fireworks, no declarations. Just two people choosing stillness, choosing to stay. The song we'd been working on played softly in the background, her old voice meeting the new one, the sound of something unfinished finding its way home. She looked at me, and for the first time, there was no hesitation. Stay a while? I nodded. So we did, no words, just the sound of rain and the quiet rhythm of two people finally letting go of what they were supposed to be, and simply being.